Hello English learners, how are you doing today? Welcome back to the English with Michael YouTube channel. By a popular request, I am looking at some difficult to pronounce English place names today. Actually not just English, British place names, so English and Scottish as well, maybe some Cornish too. So let's have a look at some of these names and see if I can pronounce them. Whether you are from the UK or another country, using the wrong pronunciation of a place is a telltale sign that you are not from that place. And it's kind of like a funny thing inside the UK where if you pronounce something wrong, they instantly know that you're a tourist. And I see this all the time in my hometown where people pronounce the names wrong and I'm like, where are you from? So it's kind of a funny way to know. However, it's good to know the correct pronunciation to avoid misunderstandings and that kind of stuff. Having said that, I am not good at the pronunciation, so a lot of the words today I had to look up because I wasn't sure about. One thing we'll talk about first are the counties. So counties in the UK are like regions, different districts around the UK. And many counties end in the word shire. Like Lord of the Rings, right? Shire. In American English, they tend to pronounce this word as Shire very strongly. However, in British English, if you want to pronounce it in a more natural way, as we do here, we would say Shire as part of the word. For example, Hampshire, Hampshire. So British people wouldn't say Hampshire, that's a bit American. We say Hampshire or Hertfordshire, Cambridgeshire, Cheshire, Buckinghamshire. Okay, so there's a tip for you. If you want to sound more natural when you're pronouncing these counties, try to say shire rather than shire. This next one is one that everyone gets wrong, and this is this place here. You might be thinking with this one, Gloucester, Gloucester? It's actually much shorter than you might think. This is simply Gloucester, Gloucester. You will find Gloucester in the county of Gloucestershire. Gloucestershire. Confusing, isn't it? There's a whole chunk of letters here that we don't pronounce. So yeah, very confusing. Another one that is somewhat of a pet peeve of mine is the capital of Scotland. And this is one that many people mispronounce. Some people might say Edinburgh. Some people might say Edinburgh. As far as I can tell, there are two common ways to pronounce this city. One is Edinburgh, Edinburgh. But commonly in speech, people will just say Edinburgh, Edinburgh. So Edinburgh, Edinburgh. Okay, did you know that one before? But yeah, keep in mind, I'm not Scottish, so maybe a Scottish person would pronounce it even better than me. Another place in Oxfordshire is this place here, and it looks a bit like Bicester, right? That's what I think when I read it, I think Bicester. But no, apparently this is pronounced Bicester, Bicester. Yeah? So you'll notice a lot of these words that end in cester, the cess part is kind of deleted, so it's just Bicester, Bicester. And yet, by the way, a lot of the reasons why words of place names in the UK are so difficult to pronounce and the spelling and the pronunciation doesn't seem to match up is partly because of the languages from which they originate. So we have Old English and we have Celtic languages like Cornish and Welsh and all these kind of things. And over time, the pronunciation might change, but the original spelling maybe stays the same. That's one reason why it might be different. Another reason, I'm only guessing here, but this is probably just because we get lazy, If you're saying the same place again and again and again, you don't want to pronounce the entire name, you shorten it, you make it simpler, right? And I think this is a natural part of language. If we say something again and again, we find a way to make it easier to say. So these days, we don't often say cannot. We usually say can't or can't, right? Because it's just easier. And I think we're seeing this in the place names as well. We're just shortening them over time to make it easier to say. But yeah, one example of a word that comes from a Celtic language is a town a very beautiful town from Cornwall, where I'm from. And this is this one here. And everyone who is not from Cornwall pronounces this wrong. So if you go to this town and you pronounce it correctly, I think the locals will be very surprised and impressed. Because it looks like Fowey. Actually, the pronunciation is Foy. Foy. Yeah, very simple, Foy. According to the internet, this comes from the Cornish word meaning beech trees. Type of tree, yeah, beech trees. So it's not actually an English word. That's why it's a little bit hard to pronounce, and it's kind of been pushed into English through this name. Okay, so this one, I haven't heard of this place before, but I found this one online, and this I think is the craziest one. So this is a place in Cheshire. I'll put it on the screen here. You might be thinking, oh, easy, this is pronounced Cholmondeley. Cholmondeley. Nope. It's pronounced Chumley. Chumley. I think we're missing about 90% of the letters in this word, right? Chumley. There's no way of guessing that unless you hear it before. So if you ever go to this place, remember Chumley. Let's do one more place now in Devon. Again, this is another place I haven't heard of, even though I've spent a lot of time in Devon. Here's the name, right, on the screen. You'll never guess this one. How do you think it's pronounced? This one is pronounced Wolseley. Wolseley. Yeah, this is the craziest one perhaps, right? Wolseley. We're just skipping out a lot of the middle part. I imagine, again, I'm only guessing, I imagine it's just because the original name is just too long. It's too difficult to say, so people shortened it to Wolseley. That might be the case. And just to finish today, maybe we can look at some places in London. So this is something that I can relate to because I moved to London last year and I was kind of afraid to say a lot of the place names because I was afraid I would say it wrong and people would instantly know that I am not a Londoner. So we'll go over a few of them now. If you come to the UK, I'm sure you'll come to London at some point, and it will be much easier to ask for directions. So by the way, this word is very important in London. This is the word borough. Borough. Americans might pronounce it a bit differently, like borough or something. But generally in the UK, we say borough, the borough of London. This is basically the district of London, the regions of London, right? So this is quite important, and you'll see signs around the city like welcome to the borough of Lewisham, for example. One borough in London is the oldest in South London, and this is the borough of Southwark? Southwark? No. This is pronounced Southwark. Southwark. The borough of Southwark in London. Yeah, this is a confusing one. Again, this comes from Old English. South does mean south because it is in South London. And the work part comes from the word work. So it's quite similar actually. The real meaning is southern defensive work. That's what it meant in the beginning. And now it's been changed into Southwark. Another example, if you've watched me on YouTube before, you'll know it's my favourite place in London. This is Greenwich. Like sandwich, right? But Greenwich. No, this is Greenwich. Greenwich. So ignore that W. This is pronounced Greenwich. This place that looks like Chiswick is simply pronounced Chiswick. So another one where we ignore that W. You might see some patterns here, such as this one, Chiswick. Another common pattern is removing the H sound. So rather than saying Clapham, we'd say Clapham, Clapham, Clapham Junction. Yeah. Let's finish with one more now. Leicester Square. No, that can't be right. Leicester Square? No. Do you remember what this was? So remember the rule when we have Cester, what do we tend to do with Cester? Right, we remove that middle syllable. So this is simply pronounced Leicester Square. Leicester Square. Okay. I'll leave the video here though, but I hope you found this confusing and enjoyable, and hopefully you learnt something too. Like I did, I learnt a few new ones today too. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.